There are two major problems that we have around black equity. And the equity from bottom up or top down is radically skewed in the negative direction. So systemic change must meet public perception in every way. And so when we talk about black equity in the classroom, we haven't even gotten to black males because we're trying to get black anything. So our district, we're seeing a radical reduction in black female teachers because you've got to follow gentrification and the patterns of gentrification. So the interrelatedness of black life does not escape the school systems. As a matter of fact, urban school systems have always been a barometer of black life. Historically, there were three professionals in the black community: the black preacher, the black mortician, and the black teacher. And so when you find instances like Tulsa in the 30s and the repeal of black life and black success, you had to come at institutions that were the foundation for their operation. Schools were a part of that. So when I got involved in Vallejo Public Schools, one of the things we discovered is that our UC Berkeley graduates or our San Francisco State graduates, young white teachers, would come into our urban district, get their credential after a year, basically test on black kids, and then flee the district and go to nice suburban districts. Well, there was no real investment. There was no critical investment. And I think it's hard to find black male teachers when they weren't nourished as black male students. So you're not raising a generation of people who admire education within the institutions that they are to receive it from. And so we've got some in-house systemic issues that we can't even begin to translate into public education yet. And so I've decided to start a step back while simultaneously then moving to how do we recapture the group we've lost. So the partnerships we have with the sheriff, and the district attorney, and the police department, and the school system is about reclamation too. Because I don't think you have any idea how great a teacher can be who was at one point failed by the system that now needs to be cleaned. What we're attempting to do now here is to say how much of the failure of our system is a lack of innovation around learning differences, around systemic ignorance that has been implanted generationally in households. So I'm floating an idea, and I'm not an elementary school educator, but I am interested in this idea of backwards tutoring. Can we get children, and we see this happening in Latino communities, right, where they're teaching their parents English. Right. Why can't we do that in black communities, where students are coming home and saying, Mom, guess what I learned today? And they do their homework together, where the parent isn't tutoring, but the student is tutoring. The self-esteem value, how it can change dynamics in the home. And so there are a number of issues that I don't think the districts can deal with, that communities have to deal with, and advocacy have to deal with. And that's what we're looking at doing right now. I would say it's education in America is market driven. Social sciences in general. I have a PhD in philosophical and systematic theology and African American studies. How do you make a living in that? What are you going to teach, right? Because now even university systems with a PhD have gone to adjunct systems. I think there's a couple of interesting research questions I would wonder if somebody can answer me. What percentage of the black male teachers that are in systems today are historically black graduates, college graduates, versus mainline institution graduates? Because I would argue that teaching is a calling. not a profession. It's something that is internally driven. It's a drive that says, I want to make a difference. It is not something that says, I want to make money. And so it's about rebranding and marketing the profession in general, make it attractive. Secondly, black males, I think historically, operate from deficit thinking around care of families and economic motivation. So because we've historically been trained, we've not been in the home without looking at the historical factors that tried to drive us out. To become college educated and successful means you have to make money to be legitimized.
Right.
Education doesn't seem to fit that bill. We have to reorient consciousness in order to develop a group of educators that see their value, not necessarily market driven, but producing communities that can operate in the market. It's two different things. And I think when we can create a consciousness, not just amongst black males, but amongst black females, that the most powerful driving force in a nation are educators, and rebrand it as such, then the market will increase on what we pay them. But if I can become an apprentice journeyman plumber and make $35 an hour, and I got 3 kids, versus you putting me in a classroom for 8 hours a day, and I'm going to make 30 grand a year, living in the state of California, I'm below poverty level. There's no incentive. So I think we've got to tackle the economic issues, and that's why I think we have to drive businesses to invest. We've got to find ways to make lives comfortable that are important to molding the future. I'm looking back over my life, and through the PhD, I can think of 2 black male teachers I've had. Through it all, 3. And I remember each one of their names. From 5th grade, Mr. Babcock, right? There's a fingerprint that you get looking at somebody who looks like you, who can talk to you in a certain way. And I remember each one of those fingerprints. It's just not enough. I think we've got to come to grips with generations that have been lost and now start to plant some seeds. And that might be a foundation or an organization that starts grooming kids in 5th grade to become educators. And to say, we will pay for you to go through college if you commit to give us 5, but you got to start in 5th grade. And you got to start allowing them opportunities to teach in 5th grade and mentor each other. So here, our youth teach our seniors how to use their cell phones. We create a session where they say, okay, this Saturday we're bringing the 60-plus-year-olds, bring your phones, and the kids are going to teach you how to open up, how to log in, how to get online. And watch 5th, 6th graders get energized by passing on knowledge. Everybody wants to be smart. I argue that in many ways integration was the worst thing that happened to the African American community. It took the self-sustaining drive. When you don't control and own institutions, you can't hire and fire. But more than that, there's no positive identifier to connect to your ontology, to your being. Right? There's no sense of respect. Right? And theologians, James Cone, have often talked about when a black man was nothing, Uncle Tom, Louis Boy, when he walked into the black church, he became a deacon. He got a new identifier. Well, in our communities today, there's still a lack of positive identifying forces by which we can attach ourselves to. And then charging black professionals, and I think this is a critical piece, our bourgeois inclination, our ladder climbing pathos, our drive to be success an American, has led to the radical abandonment of our communities. And on every level, we are pressured to be societally accepted. So I definitely think the demographic shifts. I think there's some ego-based work we've got to do, some consciousness work we've got to do in order to get us to be appreciated and to appreciate professions that have impact. I think there's probably an innate danger of making them school police officers. And so they are not allowed to fully exist in the role of educator because they become the school-wide disciplinarian or the mentor for everybody in the school. And that type of burnout gets difficult. Also, there are curriculum challenges posed against them. But then internally, we've got to get beyond the slave syndrome of education being whitewashing. Right? And so we are on this, at least in my local context, it's cool to be smart. And reorienting at a very early age, using particular diction, making a subject and verb agree is not the purview of white talk. Right? So there are Sundays where I show Paul Robeson. And I show Langston Hughes and any other, to show that we've been talking and transforming language for decades. We've got to, on a ground level, reorient the black psyche. And I don't think we're going to be able to do that in an age of Trumpism, where to make America great again is to make America stupid again.